Okay, so good afternoon. We'll proceed now with the remainder of the lecture. So while on break, no, I decided to add a few slides dito sa lecture, pero hindi na to kasama sa exam ha. I added a few slides just to give you a general general context no on uh, sympatholytic agents or sympathoplegic drugs no. Kasi we went straight no from sympathomimetic agents and then to adrenoreceptor blockers no. But actually, your adrenoreceptor blockers form a group, is just one group of drugs under the group of drugs called sympathoplegic drugs. So, pag sinabi natin na sympathoplegic drugs, so these are drugs that decrease the sympathetic discharge or its effects on the cardiovascular system, or actually the whole any other organ that has ano no may sympathetic uh, na innervation. So that's why earlier we mentioned no itong mga sympathoplegic agents, these are commonly used in managing hypertension among other things no. And kasama dito sa sympathoplegic agents yung alpha 2 receptor agonists. So, if you look at the classification, itong mga sympathoplegic drugs, ang kasama dito kasi would actually be your centrally acting agents, your ganglion blockers, the postganglionic sympathetic neuron blockers, and the adrenoreceptor blockers. So, dumiretso tayo kanina sa adrenoreceptor blockers without tackling itong mga ibang medications. No? Pero among these kasi, ang pinaka ginagamit pa rin ngayon yung mga centrally acting agents and the adrenoreceptor blockers, particularly in hypertension. Pero yung ganglion blockers at saka postganglionic sympathetic neuron blockers, hindi na sila masyadong ginagamit ngayon. Kaya uh, uh, hindi na siya na-discuss. Hindi na siya gaano dinidiscuss. Although there are other indications for them. So for example, so I think we mentioned earlier na itong mga centrally acting sympathoplegics like clonidine and methyl dopa. So I won't discuss this too much in detail, and you will discuss this naman when you go to your antihypertensive agents. Yung mga ganglion blockers naman, so an example here would be trimethophan. So this is a nicotinic cholinesterase antagonist. So this is an example of a ganglion blocker binding to your sa autonomic ganglion nga, di ba? So sabi natin, di ba sa autonomic ganglia, yung acetylcholine, yung ano doon, yung neurotransmitter involved doon. So this can also affect the sympathetic nervous system by acting on the ganglion. So this is given as a parenteral agent before no in the management of severely elevated blood pressure. So, however, it causes marked hypotension, blurred vision, constipation, and urinary retention. So, hindi na ito masyado rin ginagamit because of there are many other better drugs. And at the same time, look at the kinetics. It has a duration of action of only 1 to 3 minutes. So, constant IV infusion. So, hindi na siya ginagamit commonly ngayon. The other group of drugs are the postganglionic sympathetic neuron blockers like reserpine and guanethidine. So these drugs would alter the storage and release of norepinephrine and other amine neurotransmitters. So reserpine blocks the uptake of catecholamines and serotonin in the storage vesicles. Pag na-block yung uptake niya, so mas expose siya sa metabolism by your monoamine oxidases. So and catechol O methyltransferases, no, kaya mas mas madaling ma-degrade. The other drug is guanethidine. So ito naman, it prevents the release of transmitter vesicles. I think this is in one of the figures earlier no sa first part ng lecture. So if you look at the duration of action nitong dalawang drugs na to, pareho silang mahaba yung duration ng action. So ang mga toxicities ng mga drugs na to, sa reserpine, it may cause severe psychiatric depression kasi nadideplete yung mga monoamines. So it can cause depression. Tapos yung guanethidine naman, while it does not enter the CNS, problem nga dito is mahaba yung kanyang duration of action, and then it causes marked orthostatic hypotension and water retention. So itong mga drugs na to, hindi na to masyadong ginagamit ngayon, ano. And then yung the fourth group na itong mga adrenoreceptor blockers. So we already finished discussing your alpha adrenoreceptors. We will move on now to the last part, yung beta blocking agents. So the beta adrenoreceptors act primarily as competitive pharmacologic antagonists. And the prototype of the beta blockers is propranolol. So this is a non-selective beta blocker. Now, your beta blockers are subgroup or subdivided based on the beta-1 receptor selectivity, whether they have partial agonist activity or a local anesthetic action, or what is known also as membrane stabilizing activity and lipid solubility. So this next table summarizes to you, itong characteristics ng mga common beta blockers. So the beta-1 selective agents shown in this table are acebutolol, atenolol, esmolol, metoprolol, and your nebivolol at low doses, while the rest are non-selective. Note that carvedilol and labetalol have additional alpha blocking effect. So kung beta-1, di ba, that's primarily sa heart, di ba? Pero pag alpha, meron siyang additional vasodilating effect by blocking your alpha-1 receptors. Now, yung partial agonist activity, so tatlo yung important dito, acebutolol, labetalol, and pindolol. So if you remember sa sa pharmacodynamics, a partial agonist produces an agonist effect but does not reach a maximal response. So there's hindi full yung receptor occupancy niya, receptor effector occupancy, and therefore it does not produce a maximal response. And if you remember yung kanyang characteristic, in the presence of a full agonist, a partial agonist can act like an antagonist because it can compete with your full agonist. So clinically, your partial agonists are used as antagonists. Okay? So next, yung local anesthetic activity naman. So meron ditong meron at merong walang local anesthetic activity. So this would be important later on, especially for ophthalmic preparations given topically. No, kasi yung mga merong local anesthetic activity, ito yung mga may risk na mag-develop ng corneal ulcerations dahil nawawala yung normal protective mechanisms dahil nga may local anesthetic activity. Next, itong lipid solubility. Pagka mataas ang lipid solubility, of course, it can cross the blood-brain barrier and can cause significant CNS effects. So among these, propranolol has the highest lipid solubility. And lastly, itong mga elimination half-life, I highlighted here esmolol because majority of your beta blockers, ang kanilang half-life would be for several hours. The shortest would be esmolol with the half-life of only 10 minutes. So this is given intravenously usually pagka acute na hypertension or sometimes tachycardia or in atrial fibrillation in rapid ventricular response. So minsan binibigay yan. Ang may pinakamahabang half-life based on this would be nadolol, so 14 to 24 hours. So as I said earlier, yung receptor selectivity is one of the basis for subgrouping, and common din yan na tinatanong sa exam. So which ones would be your beta-1 selective or your non-selective beta blockers? So ang advantage nito, since beta-1 selective sila, they are generally safer in patients with asthma because di ba, beta-2 receptor blockade can cause bronchospasm. So pagka beta-1 selective siya, so less likely to precipitate or stimulate bronchospasm. So for the non-selective agents, so ito yung mga examples. And sinabi ko kanina yung mga may alpha blocking, merong additional na vasodilating effects. Yung nebivolol has vasodilating actions that are independent of the beta-1 selective antagonism. So I think this is more related to nitric oxide release from the endothelium. Now, regarding the presence of partial agonist activity, so some books will also term this as intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. So dahil nga meron silang partial agonist activity. So remember, a partial agonist is a drug that produces a smaller maximal effect than a full agonist. And because of this, it can inhibit the effect of a full agonist. So kaya clinically, kahit partial agonist siya, in the presence of a full agonist, in this situation, norepinephrine, so it can antagonize the effect of norepinephrine. So theoretically, these are also advantageous in treating patients with asthma because they are less likely to cause bronchospasm in comparison to your full antagonists. Itong mga may local anesthetic activity, sabi ko nga, ito yung may increased na risk for corneal ulceration because when used topically in the eyes, they can reduce the protective reflexes. So yung mga walang local anesthetic activity, ito yung mga better given in patients with glaucoma. So kinetics-wise, itong mga beta blockers have been developed mainly for chronic oral use with the exception of esmolol with a short duration of action. So this is used parenterally for sudden excursions in blood pressure and also in heart rate. Minsan ginagamit din ito intraoperatively. So, sabi ko nga kanina, yung nadolol has the longest duration of action and certain drugs are less lipid soluble compared to other beta blockers and therefore not likely to cause CNS depressant effects. So the effects and clinical uses are predictable based on their receptor-mediated effects. So these tables shown here summarize to you your beta blockers, the mechanism of action, and their clinical applications. So we just go through them in the next slides. So for glaucoma, sabi natin maganda dito yung mga walang local anesthetic activity. So timolol. And you review the table, yung walang local anesthetic activity. So the mechanism is that they decrease the secretion of aqueous humor from the ciliary epithelium. So take note, yung mga drugs used for glaucoma that they act either on the sympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system. In the cardiovascular system, ito yung maraming uses ng mga beta blockers. So they are commonly used in hypertension, angina, and arrhythmias to lower blood pressure via lowering the heart rate or causing a certain degree of vasodilation. In angina, when you decrease the heart rate and the contractility, diba, you also reduce the oxygen consumption ng heart. And in arrhythmias, the main problem is usually an increase in heart rate. So beta blockers can address arrhythmias. So they are in the section in the lecture on antiarrhythmics. So these are class 2 antiarrhythmic agents. Now, earlier we mentioned dopamine and dobutamine, diba? So those two drugs can be used in acute decompensated heart failure. Conversely, your beta blockers are used naman in chronic heart failure. So, it may seem initially contradictory, bakit tayo magbibigay ng beta blocker in a patient with heart failure? Di ba ang problema ng pasyenteng may heart failure, meron siyang reduced cardiac output. Diba? Because, for example, of cardiomyopathy or damage to the myocardium, mababa yung cardiac output ng patient. So, ang normal compensatory mechanism will be to activate your sympathetic nervous system along with the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system para tumaas yung cardiac output in order to compensate dahil nga mahina yung contractility ng heart. So while the compensatory mechanisms can increase the cardiac output, nangyayari doon, the heart will actually work harder pa. 'Di ba? Kasi tataas yung heart rate, tapos yung contractility, tapos yung with your RAAS activation, 'di ba? May vasoconstriction and salt and water retention. So the heart will actually work harder and it causes what is known as cardiac remodeling. So and this is the cardiac remodeling is what actually shortens or reduces the survival of patients with chronic heart failure. So one of the strategies being used is to give medications that will block or blunt these compensatory mechanisms. That's why beta blockers can be given, in order to blunt these compensatory mechanisms and reduce cardiac remodeling. Pero pwede pa rin actually yung mag-cause ng decompensation ng heart failure ang beta blockers. So the doses of beta blockers in chronic heart failure should be properly titrated para hindi mag-precipitate ng heart failure. Okay? So other uses, pheochromocytoma, we've already mentioned that earlier. Usually, starting first with an alpha blocker and pwede magdagdag ng beta blocker. So we don't give a beta blocker alone with your pheochromocytoma, di ba? Kasi ang mangyayari, magkakaroon siya ng unopposed alpha receptor stimulation by the catecholamines released by your pheochromocytoma. So tataas lalo yung blood pressure due to the vasoconstriction. Yan. So and then propranolol also can be used in order to reduce the size of infantile hemangiomas, although the exact mechanism is unclear. Now for the adverse effects, so in the cardiovascular system, mainly extensions of beta blockade. So pwede magkaroon ng reduction in heart rate, atrioventricular block, and heart failure as what I mentioned earlier. So pwede siyang gamitin sa heart failure, pero it can also precipitate heart failure. And then in patients with COPD or asthma, pwede magkaroon ng acute exacerbation. So we prefer beta-1 selective agents or those with intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. Tapos, well, the insulin secretion, hindi naman siya ganun ka-clinically important. And itong masking of premonitory symptoms of hypoglycemia. So, ang mga symptoms diba ng hypoglycemia, sweating, tachycardia, tremor, and anxiety. So, I mentioned this earlier, that the sweat glands are innervated by muscarinic receptors. So, pagka ang sinasabi ng statement na to, kapag ka naka-beta blocker ka, yung signs ng hypoglycemia pwedeng mamask, hindi mahahalata ng pasyente na hypogly na siya. So pwedeng hindi siya nagkakaroon ng tachycardia, tremor, or anxiety. So yun yung kasi these are mediated by the sympathetic nervous system. However, yung diaphoresis hindi siya namamask. So kasi nga these sweat glands have cholinergic receptors rather than adrenergic receptors. Okay? And then other toxicities, impaired mobilization of glucose from the liver and sequestration of potassium in the skeletal muscle. And then yung mga CNS adverse effects, this would be prominent in your lipid-soluble beta blockers. And then sexual dysfunction can also occur. As we nandun sa table kanina, di ba? Doon sa process of I think, di ba, sympathetic is ejaculation. And then propranolol, the prototype, can increase serum triglycerides and LDL levels. So although hindi naman ibig sabihin nito na contraindicated ang propranolol in patients with dyslipidemia. So it just means that monitoring should be done more closely in these patients. And lastly, chronic beta blocker therapy can lead to beta receptor upregulation. So, as a part of the compensatory mechanisms, lalo na sa mga pasyenteng may essential or primary hypertension, in these cases kasi parang yung set point ng blood pressure, there's a set point kaya siya always bumabalik dun sa high na blood pressure point na yon. So pagka nabigay ka ng beta blocker, the body also responds by upregulating your beta receptors. So kapag ka abrupt withdrawal ng beta blocker, so magiging 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 babaw itong beta receptor, yung pag-bind ng norepinephrine sa mga upregulated na beta receptor. So, ang manifest sa kanya would be the opposite. So, magkakaroon ng rebound hypertension. So, this principle is actually applicable hindi lang sa beta blockers but your antihypertensives in general. No? Dahil hindi dapat ina-abruptly withdraw ang mga antihypertensives, no? Because of the risk of sudden rebound hypertension, leading to tachycardia, arrhythmias, and even death due to MI or stroke. Yan. I think this is the last slide already. So, are there any questions? So yung ibang slides in the PowerPoint presentation following are just review slides. So you don't need to go through them. You can read through them on your own kasi more on recall naman yon. So kung gusto niyo mag-review or cramming kayo, pwede niyo basahin yung part na yan. Okay? I think that's the last slide. May questions ba? Okay. So if there are no more questions, so I think you can stay logged on muna until you have your post-lecture quiz scheduled at 1:30.